All right, there we go. So I wanted to give you a video that kind of addressed certain stylistic issues that you need to keep in mind whenever you are writing in this setting, this kind of formal academic setting. All right, first off, um, we don't we don't want to write or speak beyond ourselves. Okay, so we don't want to use like inflated English, right? Um, you know, be serious, be concise, and be precise. Okay, so we don't want to add more words than are necessary, and we don't want to use words that we don't have a firm hold on. Okay, because that then undermines our credibility as writers. Right? No cliches, no contractions. Remember the bit about demonstrative pronouns. Okay, we talked about that in several videos, right? But essentially, if you use a demonstrative pronoun, like this, that, these, those, um, and I'm not talking about pronomials here, but if you use a demonstrative pronoun like that, whatever you're referring to needs to be there in the same sentence, right? No first person nouns unless it is specifically allowed for, right? And never ever use second person nouns. Okay. A lot of times you don't even know your reader, so don't presume to, um, like uh, tell that reader what he or she thinks or what he or she should do. Most oftentimes, when students write about like a you, they just mean like kind of a hypothetical person, you know. But there are other ways to go about doing that. You could create kind of like a one, what one might do in this case, right? That's always a safe way to go. Okay? Never use double negatives. Okay, and look, I have an example here. Okay, I can't believe that you don't care. Okay, now look, in this case, we have the first negative, and like modifying can't. So I can't believe. What can't I believe that you don't care? In this case, I've got two negatives in the sentence, but they don't negate each other, right? However, in the second sentence, I've got I can't believe nothing. Okay. Now, if I were to treat that as a logical assertion, those negatives cancel each other out, right? Which means that I can believe something. Do not use sexist language. No, no. Okay. Don't use any language that treats any other group without uh, the respect that they deserve. Okay, so yeah, no sexist language, no racist language, right? That goes without saying. Okay. All right, now avoid using the plural pronoun for singular antecedents, right? We talked about that in the pronoun video. If you don't know, um, this hypothetical person's gender, right? Then just say his or her, him or her, he or she. Okay, just do it that way. Um, all right. Look, I will say that there is a neuter him. There's a tradition of using the masculine pronouns if you don't know, but that can be seen as sexist. Okay, because of course, why isn't the feminine pronoun used when you don't know, right? And honestly, some people do that. Okay, it's your call. Whatever you do, if you want to refer to some hypothetical person whose gender you don't know with all female pronouns, cool. You want to refer to that person with all masculine pronouns, cool. If you want to just kind of double up each and every time, he, she, he slash she, his slash her, him slash her, do that every time. As long as you're consistent, it's fine. Okay. You do not, under any circumstances, use sentence fragments or run-on sentences. Okay. Again, nothing discredits you as a writer faster than that. Okay. We want to avoid colloquial expressions, like informal speech, like a lot or lots, right? We can say many instead. Um, these days, nowadays, I saw those quite a bit with my international students. So we could say currently or recently. right? Very is vacuous, right? If you tell me that something is extraordinarily or atypically or decidedly or exceedingly or profoundly or whatever, like I get that. That's good. Because what you're doing is you're saying, hey, there's that normal level that things are, and then this is beyond that. That's all right. When you say very, it comes across like like maybe you're a small child who kind of lacks the vocabulary to convey thought clearly, and you end up kind of like I'm emphasizing it's very exciting, and so it comes across more as like an emotional appeal than a logical one. Okay. And look, never write I think or I believe there because you're writing it, so by virtue of that it's understood that that's what you think or believe. All right. Now, okay, clarity, right? We want to make sure that, the biggest part of this, like what I'm focusing on is kind of comparisons, right? At the talent show, the audience seemed to appreciate Susan's performance more than it seemed to appreciate Jim. Okay. Now, look, what we're comparing there is Susan's performance to Jim the person. Right. So what we'd want to say is at the talent show, the audience seemed to appreciate Susan's performance more than it seemed to appreciate Jim's performance. Okay. Let's just make sure that we compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Okay. All right. So then the placement of modifiers. We want to make sure that they're as close as possible to what it is they modify. Okay. So we wouldn't want to say, I only wanted 2 sandwiches, not 3. Okay, because the only is intended to modify the 2, right? It's not that I only wanted this, it's that I wanted only 2 sandwiches. Okay. The news we received recently upset everyone. Okay. What would be best is to say the news we recently received upset everyone, because the first kind of makes it seem like did it did we recently receive the news, or did it just recently upset everyone? Okay. But if we thoughtfully kind of or more thoughtfully place that adverb, then it clears that up. Okay. The editor included a story in the anthology written by a high school student. Okay. Well, there it makes it sound like the anthology was written or put together by high school students, right? So we could do that a bit more clearly. We could place that a bit closer to the story. The editor included a story written by a high school student in the anthology. And then that way it's clear what's going on. Okay. All right. So if you can't hang the clothes yourself, ask for help hanging them from your dorm director. Okay. That makes it sound like you want to hang clothes from this dorm director, and that's what you need help with. Right. And of course, that's not it at all. Okay. You want to ask for help from your dorm director in hanging your clothes. Okay. Or, for example, our teacher is a heavy-set bearded man with a red marker named Mr. Talton. Okay, so that makes it sound like your teacher, this heavy-set bearded man, has a red marker that he named Mr. Talton. Okay, and that is not it at all. His name, that teacher's name, is Mr. Talton, and he just happens to have a red marker. Okay? Sitting on the park bench, the soaring plane briefly delighted the little boy. Okay, now we wouldn't for a moment think that the plane was sitting on the park bench, right? We want to make sure anytime we have these introductory elements like that, these participial phrases, that they modify the subject, right? So sitting on the park bench, the little boy was briefly delighted by the soaring plane. So the little boy is who was sitting on the park bench. Okay. To sew well, a strong light is necessary. Okay, I see that a lot. But again, that doesn't modify this infinitive phrase here that's acting as an introductory, um, element is not applying to the subject, right? Which in this case is a strong light. No, to sew well you need a strong light, or to sow well, sit near a strong light, right? Again, even the subject there of that second example is you. It's implied. You sit near a strong light. In order for you to sow well, right? That's what that is saying. So we need to keep that in mind when we utilize these introductory elements. Okay, but we want to make sure that our structure is always parallel, right? Um, so a young man should know how to tie a half Windsor, that's a knot, to polish his shoes, and to drive a stick shift. Okay, those are all infinitives. Okay, so it works, it tracks, it sounds great, right? To tie a half Windsor, to polish his shoes, to drive a stick shift. Okay, what is not as good is I took bribes from the Koreans, the Chinese, and Mexican students. Okay, so we have the Korean, the Chinese, and Mexican students. Should have a "the" there. The Korean, the Chinese, and the Mexican students. Okay, it's not a time for emotion, but clear thinking. Right? We need that "for" in there. It's not a time for emotion, but for clear thinking. Right? That way, it stays parallel in structure. Now, this is a case really of just proper verb tense, but I have mowed the lawn, washed the dog, rescued the turtle from a two-story fall, and went to the store. Okay, this is important. If you look at mowed the lawn, washed the dog, rescued the turtle, it seems like we're dealing in past tense now, or past tense verbs. But the have tells us that we're not. Have mowed, have washed, have rescued, right? This is present perfect stuff here. Okay. And so that went should be gone. I have mowed the lawn. I have washed the dog. I have rescued the turtle from a two-story fall, and I have gone to the store. Okay, very important. All right, and then variety, super important here. Okay, we want to make sure that we vary the introductory elements that we use. We want to make sure that we vary the verbs and verb types that we use. We want to make sure that we vary the sentence structure, right? And occasionally use past tense. Look, there are devices, actually, like tools on I think Google Docs, certainly Microsoft Word, that let that calculate the percentage of your writing that is passive voice. Generally about 5% is all right. So occasionally throwing in some passive voice to shift the focus to the object rather than the subject is the way to go. All right, well, there we are.